Yeah, and I suppose that also relates to this idea of snobbery. So when someone considers somebody else a snob, it might not necessarily only be because of the language that they use or the way that they phrase things. It's also maybe an RP accent, or the way that they pause between certain words, or perhaps the way, even non-verbals, I'd say the way that they smile before they say a certain sentence.
Yeah, we mustn't forget the non-verbal side of things, the semiotics of the situation. That's another big change in linguistics, isn't it, over recent decades? Once upon a time, language was there and everything else was over there. And now people realize that there's far more body language, to put it in its popular phrase, than people ever anticipated. And we're talking about all aspects of body language here. We're talking about the kinesics, the facial expressions and bodily gestures, and then the proxemics as well. That is the our touch behavior to each other, the distance in which we separate ourselves when we're communicating with each other, the orientation of our bodies as we communicate with each other. And these are just as culturally specific as are the linguistic aspects of things.
Yeah, I suppose it's even the clothes we wear, this idea of the supra-verbal, I think it's called.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And when you, it's very difficult to study and understand these things when you stay within a culture. But as soon as you start to encounter different cultures, the differences become obvious straight away. The people will notice each other's different behavior and either understand it and sympathize with it because they know you and they know you're not intending to offend or anything like that. Or the contrary, that they get upset by it because they don't know you or they don't understand the situation. And a lot of communicative breakdown takes place because of that.
On that point, you definitely need a mental switch, though, at least I would say, when you're encountering these other cultures or ways of speaking. So, for example, in England, there's a lot of snobbery about multicultural London English amongst like middle-class white people in metropolitan London and stuff. And that they look at it and they say it's not proper English. There's sort of like a normative element. Do you think there's like ever anything to snobbery in language in the sense of some dialects are better at communicating, some languages have impacts on ways of thinking which are negative and some languages don't? Do you think there's anything to like the competencies of language and different dialects and languages?
Well, the basic principle, of course, is that all languages are equal, all dialects are equal, and so on and so forth from a linguistic point of view. That is, they developed in order to express the culture, the mindset, the community that they express. End of. The problem only comes when you get social change, cultural change, diversity, incomers, outgoers, and all the rest of it. And then different mindsets, different linguistic varieties, should we put it that way, come into contact with each other. And then people are immediately judgmental. It seems to be part of the human condition. They always have been. Well, I say always. As far as records go back, one can see people criticizing other people because they are not like them. And in the case of English, you can trace this sort of thing right back to Old English, right back through the Middle Ages, and you'll get quotations about, they're not the same as us. They don't speak like us, therefore they don't like us. And that's a slippery slope down towards all sorts of antagonisms. Well, it seems to be part of the human condition. One of the big things that's happened, I think, since in the last 100 years, is that thanks to linguistics and to some other subjects too, anthropology and a few others, people have become more aware of the nature of that condition and are aware that just as one respects diversity in other areas, such as race and so on, so one should respect other people for their differences of language. Seems to be one of the last bastions of difficulty, however, that we still find that sort of antagonism, snobbishness, if you like to call it that, but it's two-way snobbishness, up as well as down. And language I think still has some way to go before it achieves the same degree of publicity and understanding and tolerance as some of the other social barriers that we've been able to see broken down over the last few years. So I still encounter this kind of antagonism towards linguistic difference, but it's much, much less than it used to be. When I was your age, it was ferocious. I found, people were being pilloried for a particular accent all over the place. The radio, you'd never hear accents other than RP, for instance, and things like that, other than in a jocular situation, a comedic accent or something of that kind. These days, you turn on the radio, and what do you hear? You hear, Ian McMillan on Radio 3 every Friday, The Verb at 10 o'clock. Strong Yorkshire accent there. I'm proud of it, and everybody accepting it and nobody criticizing it at all. And that kind of thing would have been inconceivable a couple of generations ago.